Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Brian?
Hey, Rosh, happy to be here. We, as always, are two creative guys talking AI, and I'm very excited this week to talk about our most recent viral video on YouTube. It's blowing up. It's all about ChatGPT's image creator. I did a quick 5-minute guide on how to do just all the latest AI image trends, and I want to just speak in general about the fact that there now are AI image trends. So there's a lot of really cool things happening. I see a lot in my Facebook groups and communities, so I want to deep dive on that. And then speaking of Facebook, Facebook is back as another contender in this fight with their Llama 4, and it's putting up some pretty impressive benchmark numbers against some of the other big players like GPT and Gemini. Yes, I'm really excited to chat
I'm
about
looking
both
forward to
those.
hearing what you have to say about that because I don't know much about it, quite honestly.
Okay. Yeah, it's a it's got its own thing going on. But for me being in the world of social, very interesting. So,
Yeah, certainly.
what do you have going on, my friend?
So we've been waiting about a year, and it was just dropped in the middle of the night. Midjourney 7
Mm-hmm.
is now available. Very cool. Did a review of that, and it was a solid video, going strong until yours overtook it
A
just a
little
few
bit of
hours
muscle in
ago.
there.
Nice little healthy competition. It's
I
great.
love it.
Keeps the YouTube channel growing.
Yes.
And then I want to talk about relying too much on AI. We all do
Hmm.
it, and there's a big case of that going on right now. And
Interesting.
we'll talk a little bit about that and how
Little
we
current
can,
events.
especially let me say this because we haven't been talking much about it. The creative AI director, you're going to have to do real world stuff and make good decisions when to use AI, when not to.
Yeah.
And hey, head on over to creativeaishow.com and you can check out our webinar as we're building up
Hmm.
our tools for our creative AI friends.
Well, and what's great, to think about that is that we still need experts in these areas to be able to determine if the answers we're getting from AI are BS or if they're
Yeah,
accurate, if they're
right.
right. So, that's why, I don't think graphic designers are really going to die or go away because they still need to make the decisions to make the tool do the thing. And, at the end of the day, I'm an okay graphic designer, but my eye is nowhere near as good as a high-end graphic designer.
Sure,
So to be able to
absolutely.
decide at the end of the day what is a good product or a good output, it's going to matter.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. All
All
right.
right. So speaking of great images, we all know ChatGPT image has been, the big news in AI for the last couple weeks now,
Yeah.
and the fire is still burning bright. I'm still seeing a lot of things. So a lot of one of the main places I consume a lot of the latest news and trends and things happening in AI, and I've talked about this previously on the show, is through Facebook. This is one of the spots where Facebook is really still relevant and very good in its community building. And with the pages that you follow and the groups that you follow. And first of all, groups are one of the highest things on the algorithm to get
Yeah,
delivered to you,
absolutely.
especially if you're a participant, a top moderator, or a member of that group. If something's happened in that group, when you get onto Facebook, you're going to have it delivered in your first 5 or 10, posts that are brought your way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the quantity of action figures that I have seen in the last week that people have made of themselves across all different industries and everything made me realize that we've got a whole new internet trend world happening here. And that is the world of AI imagery and the ways that these tools can take and make certain things. So thank you for giving me the props there on my video, currently knocking yours out of the top ranking a little bit here. And you know what, Rosh, I love it. We kind of got a little McCartney-Lennon thing going on here. Not that I'm claiming that we're at that level or anything, but it's like you go and make a video and it comes out well and I'm motivated then to make the next video and have it do even better, and it's just made for what I think to be pretty good content on our page. I'll
Yeah.
shamelessly plug that all day. But in addition to this weekly podcast, and I'll say this to anybody who's listening on any of the streaming platforms, Rosh and I are putting up a video every single day
Yeah.
about the different things we're doing in the world of AI. And I saw all of these chat GPT viral images, and this is through the DALL-E 3 engine, but
Mhm.
people stopped saying DALL-E, they just started attributing it to chat GPT.
Yeah.
And so the three big ones that I noticed were first of all that the action figure one. So you give it the full prompt, to say to make an action figure, and tell it, the kind of accessories and things that you want to have in there, upload an image. So I just took a selfie really quick. And I didn't do any touching it up. And ChatGPT was very quick to point out all the age lines around my eyes. So, hey, this is
That's very
40.
kind. Yes.
This is 40, but hey, that's all right. So I made a really cool action figure of myself. Even my son came in the room and was like, "Dad, what are you doing on the screen? That looks funny." But he knew that it was me.
Yeah.
And that was cool to see
Yeah.
that. And so what I did, and this is, anyone listening, it was really simple. I went to ChatGPT and as usual, I asked ChatGPT how to use itself. And whenever I'm speaking to a large group of people and I'm talking about these LLMs, more often than not, the answer is just ask it.
Yep.
And so I started out just by saying, hey, what are the top 3 image trends that are going viral, that are happening right now? And then I named one of them because I wanted to make sure that that was one of the 3. And so I mentioned the action figure one. And then it immediately came back and says, yes, absolutely. This trend has been blowing up. As Sam Altman says, it's melting his computers and their processors. I think he did that more as a humble brag than anything of how much people are using it. So, there's some reverse psychology and marketing there. But so what I did was I said, hey, what are the 3 biggest trends? So it said, all right, yeah, people are loving making these Lego scenes.
Mhm.
And it's a very distinct style. And, these Lego movies have kind of blown up and, been very fun in that kind of world. And then also there's a Japanese anime style called
Mhm.
Studio Ghibli. And I had to look up how to pronounce it because I was saying Ghibli and it's a
Yeah.
soft G like giant. But yeah. And but it's a very distinct animation style
Right.
that people are creating, scenes of themselves. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can, take a selfie. I can then ask ChatGPT, hey, give me the exact prompt that I need to make a really good one of these.
Hmm.
And that was the next step of my process. So instead of trying to figure out exactly how to write this prompt, as usual, I asked ChatGPT how to use it. It gave me the prompt. And yeah, I was able to, within 15 minutes, recreate 3 of the biggest image trends. And, so if somebody is seeing something, say online, or they see something that somebody else did, you don't have to feel intimidated by it. All you have to do is go to Gemini, go to ChatGPT, go to Grok, whatever your preferred, creator is, and say, hey, I've seen this trend, or even upload an image and be like, how do I make something like this? Give me
Hmm.
the prompt that I need. Tell me what tool I need. And it's just such an example of how this amazing tool that we have that we are motivated to talk about every week it's such a teaching tool because all you have to do is just come in with the right question. And, I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but it's all about knowing what to ask these tools, and then they're going to help you kind of run with it. So, again, not to humble brag, but we're getting close to 500 views, and it hasn't even been a day. So, this is it's happening right now. It's
Yeah, I
exciting.
know. Of course, somebody listening to this is like, okay, that's my first half hour. You guys like, which is true. But we're growing in the world of our YouTube. So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah. Hey, we passed 500 subscribers. We can say
We
that.
did.
Thank
We
you to our
have. Yeah,
audience. Yeah, that's something to celebrate. So that's good. We're
absolutely.
marching towards 1,000 now. We've got lofty goals.
We
So
do.
speaking of videos that have done well, I'll throw it back to your way because I thought your Midjourney video was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, Midjourney released 7, and we've been sitting at I think 6.1 for quite a while. Our
Hmm.
six, the 6 series, and 6 was a big jump. Honestly, it was a big jump and really took us where a lot of us wanted to go in terms of text to image,
Hmm.
especially. And they really have set the standard in many areas in terms of stylization. They have what's called weirdness and variety, and
Hmm.
giving you the opportunity to create profiles. So I have a profile that is pastel. So I can just say cat and it'll create a pastel cat. So if
Mm.
you use those profiles, that's really, a lot of that started right at Midjourney. But
Yeah.
Midjourney has taken a little bit of a cue from Leonardo and
Oh,
now has drafts, and they pop up a lot quicker.
okay.
And they give you 4 versions and larger versions a lot quicker so you can see them. But not only that, when you're in drafts, you can actually talk to the AI. So it's speech to AI to or speech to image, really. And so
Really?
you say, I would like this, and then next thing you know, you have images exactly what you just asked for, what you just said. So you can't do it in regular 7, but you can do it in the draft mode. And so that's
Okay.
really cool.
So
Now,
it's actually connecting to your microphone plugged into your
yeah,
computer through your sound card. That's great.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So that's kind of something we've been talking about. You just
Yeah.
that eventually that's what you're going to do is say, okay, now remove this, now add that,
Yeah.
and you're just going to sit there and talk to your
Well,
computer.
like
And
what you talked about last week with vibe coding, where it's kind of just a back
yes,
and forth conversation. This is what it's going to be. And, this is kind of glimpses into the future of what it's going to be. We're not going to have to sit here and type stuff anymore. And it's a shame. I feel like it takes so long for me to sit and type an email or type something into ChatGPT to the point where I have taken out my phone and talked to ChatGPT. And then I'll open up ChatGPT because it's logged into the same thing on my
yep,
desktop. And I can open up that tab that I started on my phone and go from there because I don't want to type it. So this
right,
is, yeah, that's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's just going to continue to
Mhm.
become even more and more seamless, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
All right.
So
To ask you back now, how does it compare to Rev? We love Rev right now. What are you
yeah,
thinking?
I still think Rev is kind of top dog on that,
Yeah.
but it does depend. I mean, Rev doesn't have as many features.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like Leonardo, though Leonardo just did an upgrade that we can review in the coming days. But especially for video, Leonardo is horrible. It was like looking at the Will Smith spaghetti
Eating
video from
spaghetti.
2 years ago, the kind of stuff that Leonardo
Yeah.
was producing. But I think they've upgraded, so we're going to see how that works out. But ultimately, something like a Leonardo has a ton of features, but then you question, okay, are they the best features?
Right.
You have availability, but they are cutting edge. So I think Rev is pretty straightforward, does a great job. I still think Midjourney is a solid leader, offers some great imagery, and it solidly compares to
Now,
everyone.
the version you reviewed, was that a paid version or is that free?
Oh boy, you had to ask me that question. I have paid and I have, for quite a while. So I'm
Okay.
assuming you can go. Well, I know if you're in the Discord, you can
Hmm.
use it. Not, I think more and more people have come over to the web versus using the craziness of the Discord, which is where Midjourney started.
Hmm.
But one thing to get this 7 version, and you have options to use multiple versions, the you have to go through the process like you go through for personalization or you
Hmm.
did for before. So you have to go through 200 images
Yeah.
and then it will give you access to 7. So it'll understand you a lot better. Have you done anything like that before?
No, I thought that was the most fascinating part of your video that you put up, just showing, the quantity of images that you have to go through so it understands you. And it makes a lot of sense to do that. I mean, these image creators are getting so good across the board that the next step is to personalize it to the user. And what better way to do that than make them go through some work? And, was it like an A/B test where you're like, which one do you like
Yeah,
more?
so it pops up too, and obviously in the video I ran through it. Actually, I ran out of time. I sped it up like 20 times, so just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah,
I didn't even get through all 200 in that section of the video. I think I only got
right.
through, maybe a third of the total of what I had to go through. I just sat there, and yeah, and sometimes you don't even know which one. You're like, oh, well, I like both, and sometimes you feel it's more psychological,
Mhm.
meaning it's like if I pick that one, what kind of a person am I? If I
Yeah,
pick
like
this
those
one, what
ink
kind of a
blotter
person?
Rorschach,
Yeah,
Rorschach, what are they called? Yeah,
yeah,
those type things.
exactly. So that's kind of the way you feel. Just don't think, just pick, because some
Yeah,
of them it could go
Midjourney
either
has a
way.
whole personality profile on you already
Yes,
made.
yes.
Exactly.
AI knows me better than I do. So
Yes.
anyway, so that's I'm very happy with Midjourney. Midjourney has been a standard, and I have a feeling they noticed that I've been going to Rev more often to get my work
Yeah.
done, and so they're like, "We got to release 7. Rosh is going away."
Yeah, exactly.
Because Rev is the first one that I've actually regularly gone away. I mean, I guess number 2 would have been Leonardo, but
Mhm.
um, the other ones haven't steered me away. So I think I'm kind of back over Midjourney for a while.
Okay. Hey, it's good to have a little column A, column
Yeah,
B, mix things up.
I do.
All right, so I know Rev super good on its prompt adherence. Would you say
Yes.
Midjourney's in that same ballpark?
Not at the same level.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
say not at the same level.
Yeah, I mean, most of these ones, if they're hitting 80% of your prompt, they're doing good. And
Yeah.
Rev to me consistently is 95 to 100% of the
Yes. And I
prompt. It's
still think
adhering
they're there, and
strongly.
that's what
Boom.
makes them better.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then
understood.
nice imagery too.
Yeah. So very good. All right. Well, throwing back over to my department here. Obviously, I am all things social media, and when Google's doing something good, and there's new contenders like OpenAI, what's Zuckerberg doing? That's what I always want to know. What does he have up his sleeves? Because we know they've got the budget, we know they've got the people, they've got the infrastructure, and they're not to be silenced. And they've had an AI built into their programs for a bit. I've seen it pop up more on the back end of Meta, when I'm making posts and ads, and it gives suggestions. And to be honest, just like you with Google, and me with Facebook, the AI suggestions, they're not always great. Sometimes they're
Right.
good, they give ideas, but hey, I'm still the expert, so I'm going to go off of what I know, just
Yep.
like you in the world of Google. But
Exactly.
Llama 4 is out. And it's got some cool things that are happening here. So first of all, just in the typical benchmarking of it, it's on the same level with the latest Gemini. It's there with 4 Omni with ChatGPT, and it's doing the coding and all the other benchmarking things great. But there's some distinct differences that I want to talk about with Llama. One of the first ones that they want to make sure that this is an open source one. So I've learned a
Yep.
lot about what open source is from you. From what I
Yep.
understand, it's a program that can be actually downloaded locally to your
Hmm.
computer and run off of your own,
Your own
infrastructure.
server, or put it
Yeah,
up on, AWS if you want,
yeah,
or something like that. But it gives you the opportunity to have the code so you can make adjustments,
yeah,
or even train it. Some of them allow you to train them a little further to very specifics. So just
yeah.
depends.
But they want to make sure it's not overloading your GPU. So they
Yep.
said, hey, we want this to fit on a single NVIDIA H100 GPU. I don't really know what that means, but I assume it's, a basic
Yeah.
running, so most of our machines can handle this if they're a
Yeah.
modern machine.
Yeah.
And one of the ways it does it, and this is what I thought to be the most fascinating feature of Llama 4, is that it has what's a mode called mixture of experts. So
Mm.
imagine you're in a room with 100 experts,
Hmm.
and if you're asking AI whatever your topic is, whether it's about this very specific thing or something, that encompasses a lot, it's going to still ask every expert in the room.
Yeah.
And it's going to use a lot of processing power to do that. And what Llama's doing is it's actually condensing resources, conserving resources by only using the parts of the model that are needed for that given task.
Very
So
smart.
it's only opening part of the tap of, hey, this type of question is math based. I really only need to ask these 6 experts what is going on with this one. And I can leave the other 94 alone, and thus run your PC, your
Yeah.
GPU less, run your computer less. So it's it's pretty fascinating
Yeah.
how
I mean, this is
ver-
something we talked about a year and a half ago, how,
yeah.
saving energy, and how
Hmm.
these big LLMs are not going to be sustainable in the way that
Right.
they were, at least at the time. Obviously, they've gotten better with the resources, but we were talking about how we're going to have smaller,
Hmm.
expert, and so they're actually doing that. And oh, I have a cat coming in. If you
That's
wonder
right.
why the door is opening behind me.
The ghost
Um,
has joined us.
it's it's haunted. No, it's not here. We're so these smaller LLMs are smaller AIs, who have a specialty. Yeah, bundling them together and say, hey, just use the resources of that expert.
Right.
Very smart, if you want my opinion. If you want a larger overall kind of Llama, 4 kind of being something for everybody, but
Right.
you want to save energy. So yeah, it's kind of Mark called and he was listening to us, and he
I
really
assume he
wanted some
has. I mean,
ideas of
500
about a year and
followers,
a half
buddy.
ago.
Come on.
So yeah. If you believe that, okay, got a great bridge for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with me being in social, one of the only areas what we really use Meta's AI or Llama for is to do, to help us with some content writing and some stuff on the social side of things.
Yep.
So I'm excited about this. I want to, I'm going to encourage my team to try it out and see, how we do with it. And yeah, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. So you had mentioned in pre-show something about tokens and how they're working
Yeah.
with tokens. Is there something there? Because I was kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so it's, limiting the number, and then the actual amount that you spend on it is based on quantity of tokens and stuff like that.
Okay.
And again, I'm not a super, computer up with it. So Llama 4 Scout, it's 11 cents per million token inputs and
Oh,
34 cents per million token outputs.
okay.
To the layman's, what does that mean?
Well, some of the more expensive ones are like 60 and $70, like
Oh,
some
wow.
of the big OpenAI stuff. I believe that's correct in terms of the numbers. It was just outrageous how
Yeah.
expensive some of it was. And tokens are really, that's how the AI basically interprets your words. And
Okay.
so it tokenizes all those words. And really, it's just one long string of tokens. You think you're asking a question, then it's coming back forth, and they're actually separated. No, it's just one token, string of tokens. That's why when you want to start a new project, you always open up a new window
Hmm.
because otherwise it'll look back on those previous tokens and actually influence that new the project if you're using the same screen for a new project. So
That
yeah,
makes
but
sense. Okay.
tokens are how it really communicates and categorizes everything to search. And so depending on the types of tokens that are produced in that conversation. I guess that would determine. I'm sure there's some sort of sign to say, okay, go over to this expert or that expert for the answer based on what it's producing. Because the tokens series of tokens can have different. Think of it this way, and this is kind of a weird way of thinking of like certain types of tokens are group of tokens would be yellow, and another group would be blue. And, I
Hmm.
mean, this is not literal, but another group would be red. So if there's a lot of red tokens or series of tokens, then it would go to that expert. That was very
Yeah.
simplistic.
Oh, okay. All right. That works. So, I mean, one of the other things I said about Llama 4, it's designed with native multimodality,
Yep.
incorporating text and vision tokens together as a unified model backbone, they say. So
Mm,
it's like they're kind of
okay.
blending them together. So it's kind of one and the same.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So
pretty
yeah,
fascinating.
it
And,
would turn the visual into traditional tokens, the
yeah,
visual elements. So anyway, okay. I mean, there
very
is a
cool.
point at which this goes beyond my pay grade, so I don't want to
Okay,
talk
good,
too
because
deeply here because
we've
like
been
I
well
know
beyond
too
my pay
much.
grade for a
So,
little while.
I'm sure there's somebody saying, yeah, there's a better way to put that, Raj.
Yeah. Well, please put it in the comments. Let us know.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
all right, I really want to throw it back to you. There's been a lot going on in the world lately. So, what's happening when we're using AI a little too much?
So there's been some rumors, and there's actually something to back it up about. And I don't want this to be political. Let's just
Hmm.
straight up go as straight as arrow through this as we possibly can. That there are some tariffs that have been causing some kind of news. You can be on one
Yes.
side or the other. However, the rumor being that these this system and the numbers that were put on those boards and the way this was done and even the calculation, it's looking all fancy with the Greek epsilon and all the Greek letters in there, but ultimately it was created by AI.
Hmm.
And that comes from one source that we've talked about a lot of times. I mean, I've seen it on the internet, but when I heard it from some of the credible sources, you see
Yes.
stuff on the internet, be like,
Right.
that could be, and that looks possible. But Nate Jones specifically called it out, and he shared um, his source, and it's Rohit Krishan. He wrote a book called something like Creating God, and it's about AI. So he's an AI specialist, and
Hmm.
he went through and he's like, he went through all the AIs. He went through Grok, he went through ChatGPT, he went through Gemini, and asked the same question based on prompting, and got exactly what was put on those boards.
Yeah.
So, because outside of what was there on those boards, that calculation, I'm a little bit of a math geek. It's not much, it's not a thing, you know? And
Right.
but if AIs are spitting it out and you're depending on AI, well, so you just got to put two together. And if this is debunked down the road, fine, I'm willing to accept that. That's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. But it seems to be the case. And it just leads to the whole idea of depending too much on AI.
Yeah. We
And
still need to
I'm
be
I'm guilty.
experts at
Go
the end
ahead.
of the day. Yeah,
Yeah,
we still need to be experts at the end of the day.
we do.
It's going to take a good graphic designer to be able to tell you, hey, that's a good graphic design that it outputted.
Yes.
And just the same way as it's going to take a good economic specialist to be able to tell you, yes, these numbers are solid. This is the way we should be going. Or maybe let's try to calculate that again.
Yeah, hey, I don't think there's anything wrong with going to, and I will bet you it was probably Grok, and he said that Grok, spit out the same thing,
Hmm.
and Grok could have done so, and that's fine, but then test it,
Yes.
double check the math, make sure it's a thing, and so it's important, in whatever you're doing, you should probably just double check the math, double
Yeah.
check the writing, double check what is being created, and that again back to the creative AI director, that's your job,
Right.
and to know when to use the AI, when not to use the AI, what to ask the AI. And so I'm just saying you need to be careful, and I think this is always going to be the case at some level, at least for quite a while, because look, we're trying to create copies of humans, and humans tend to be a little flawed. And so, if we're trying to copy ourselves in some way, and create and use our biases in our coding, saying this is right, that's wrong. Well, when you're telling something that's right or wrong, we're creating bias within our AIs.
Right. That's a good
So
point. And for our audience, if you are relying on AI a little too much, just know, hey, it's happening at the highest levels. So you
exactly
need to be
right.
aware.
And I think
And
that's the bigger
yeah,
point,
right.
is that we're all becoming um, dependent. I do some coding, but gosh darn it, I know to go through and know how to fix the code. And
Right.
when it's just going down the wrong rabbit hole,
Yep.
doing things wrong. And believe me, I have gotten some math stuff that was so wrong that it was just kind of, tears in my eyes. I'm like, that's terrible. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that was my lesson of the day. Just be careful.
Hmm.
We've got some time. They're getting so smart. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, if you ever had that friend who really was smart and really seemed to know everything, but once in a while they got it completely wrong, but you just accepted it
Yep.
anyway,
Oh,
because they're
100%. Who are
usually
you going to
so
call them
smart.
out? Right. Yeah. Yep.
So
Understood. Yeah, that's a good equivalent, a really good analogy, I think, is that yeah, it's just and sometimes that friend who's so smart knows that every now and then they can spout out some BS and you're gonna believe them. So,
right.
but
Very good. All right.
well, awesome. I think we did it for today. We've talked on a lot of topics. Please, anyone in, especially on the YouTube video, if you have any topics or anything you want us to cover, send us a message or comment, like, share, all the good things. And until then, we're two creative guys talking AI.
Talk to you next week.